over 5 years ago, it is up. Crafton Volunteer Fire Department shows 38 active members on their website. I'm estimating that maybe they have 8 junior firefighters. So in actual numbers, they're similar to Ingram. Ingram has 30 members, with 3 more becoming new members in the next 3 weeks, and more applications are coming in. If you close Ingram, you immediately lose 25 interior firefighters for this area. Where's the second alarm coming from? What happens if Crafton's on mutual aid in Greentree, Carnegie, Scott Township, or Robinson Township? Once Ingram VFD is shut down, there's no going back. The cost of fire protection to reestablish a volunteer fire department this borough could not afford to do. So once it's shut down, it is shut down. And everybody needs to be aware of that. This would allow Crafton or the city of Pittsburgh to continually raise the cost to the borough, because what options are there? They're limited. Shut us down, Crafton loses a mutual aid company, as well as Greentree, Stove, anyone else that might call us, the Rocks. And their day-to-day manpower is limited to firefighters just like ours, and it's on their road crew. And then they would have to use mutual aid like we do. Sorry. Okay. So moving forward, by being here tonight, Ingram Council has shown they don't care what the residents of this community want. You've been here, you've spoken, but we still have options. We have residents who have offered to coordinate and run fundraising events to help pay for a new Quint. Residents have also offered to start a GoFundMe account. So we're here tonight and we're worried about safety. Why couldn't we sell stations 2 and 3? Use the proceeds to build one station that includes bunk rooms, kitchen, and a day room. We could start a live-in program to help with manpower, and that would particularly help on daylight calls. Moving forward, the Ingram Volunteer Fire Department has always been willing to sit and discuss how to move forward, and we continue to be open to all options in the best interest of our residents. Problem is, when we sit with members of council, they are evasive and unwilling to discuss any compromises. With this in mind, Ingram Volunteer Fire Department recommends that we return to the table to discuss, and both council and fire department, and this is a suggestion, can bring 3 residents of their own choosing to sit in on discussions. If council refuses to sit down with the fire department, then they should stop stonewalling and place the question on a referendum for the residents to decide. Hold on. We have well over 1,200 signatures of residents that want to keep the Ingram Volunteer Fire Department. Those more than 1,200 signatures represent over 850 households of the 1,500 in Ingram. More than half. To be fair to the residents, they should have a right to vote on what they want. That's right. Yep. I just want to be clear tonight. We had to talk about the city of Pittsburgh and Crafton. I have the utmost respect for the city of Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh Bureau of Fire, and the Crafton Volunteer Fire Department. We've been working with Crafton for how many years on mutual aid? We've always worked well together. City of Pittsburgh, we've worked with them on calls on the city line. It's always been a positive experience. Nothing personal. We have our community and financial obligations for our residents at the forefront of our thoughts. We, the men and women of the Ingram Volunteer Fire Department, are part of the very fabric that makes our borough what it is. By disbanding this organization, you're giving up much more than just a fire department. You'll see the decline of this borough accelerate.
That's right.
Any questions?
I didn't see you come in, Greg. We'll start on this and Greg, you know anything? You know, back.
How about the microphone?
You know,
That's what it's here for.
As a clerk, will be in my office.
No.
Okay.
a question, Dawn. You mentioned that you had 7 firefighter 1s and firefighter 2s, then you would have 4 of those would be also firefighter 1s, is that correct?
And we have
So that would be 11 altogether.
no. Go back to one of the earlier slides. Right there, that one. We have 11 firefighter 1s, 6 of which are firefighter 2 certified.
Our last notification was that you had 4, Mr. Ruda, Mr. Van, Mr. Koziel.
Last year when we met Karen, we provided a list of all the trainings, and at the time, I believe we had 10, and we've since added another one, that's firefighter 1.
All right, and so then that would make you, as if you would go for certification with the state certification, with almost half of your members or a fifth of your members. Why haven't you done that? Like have a state certification, the voluntary certification?
We've given the option to firefighters. Myself, I'll speak for myself because I am not firefighter 1 certified. I have 29 years experience. I've taken essentials of firefighting, I've taken advanced firefighting, I've taken incident command, I've taken pump operations, I've taken hazmat. I am the hazmat specialist that is on that list. Most of the classes that are required for firefighter 1, I've taken. When I did advanced firefighting, we had to take an exam, just like they do for firefighter 1. The state does not require it. They just, previous firefighters before they put this into place are still qualified under that.
Right. All right, the other question that I had was in regards to the community's financial obligations. Last year, or 2 years ago, in 2013, we had a $1.5 million listing of things that would need to be replaced in the next 15 years. That would be $100,000 worth of outlay of money. Where was that going to come from in your proposal tonight?
1.5 million over 15 years. And I believe that included an apparatus, did it not?
Apparatus and also a building. But also, any of your new members would also have to be outfitted in, what are you saying, with SCBA costing about $3,000?
We can use that as a ballpark.
Turnout gear. So
The fire-
each person, 8,000?
Roughly, maybe a little less.
Okay.
We use our state fire relief money to purchase personal protective equipment for the firefighters. We can also, anything related to the protection of a firefighter can be used out of those funds that we receive from the state. As far as where were we going to come up with 1.5 million, you said there was a building on there. I believe that list, I was not chief with in 2013, but I believe that list was a wish list of things we might have to do. So was it we have to do a new building, do we have to do this? Those things could be worked on as time, money, and resources are available.
It was a needs list that I was told.
Well, I wasn't chief at that time, so.
Okay, thank you, Don. I just want to clarify one thing. One of your earlier slides said that Ingram Borough was against used equipment, and I would beg to differ with that. Prior to you becoming chief, we had a discussion in council about you guys bidding on that Wilkinsburg truck, and I believe a bid actually was put in for that, isn't that correct?
It was my understanding though that after that you guys were opposed to the Stowe Township, and that was when it came up about being opposed to used equipment.
I don't recall that discussion, but I hope you would recall that you and I and Karen met in this room after you soon became chief, and we discussed a used ladder truck and us maybe purchasing one, and I believe your words at that time was that you weren't interested in used equipment, we're buying other people's problems. And because I had a book of used equipment, and it wasn't even discussed.
I don't believe I said, I'm sorry, go ahead, finish your
No,
question.
go ahead, I'll let you respond.
I don't believe that I said we weren't interested in buying used equipment. I believe that I said that you would be possibly purchasing other people's problems.
Okay. So I
Okay,
think it would be
but that,
okay, I'm sorry.
I'm just going by what was said back when Stowe.
Okay.
When we met, yeah, we did have that conversation, and I also felt that we would be buying other people's problems. Also, you really didn't argue too much about it. I felt like you were in agreement too.
Well, we brought it up,
You did, but
so. Okay, well, I just wanted to be clear about that, and there had been other offers as far as You know, it's not like we have not made offers, and I appreciate a lot of the things that you said, it's absolutely true. One of the other things that was brought up was about the Wilkinsburg contract. From what I have seen of the proposal, those numbers are locked in for 5 years. That's not subject to any increases during that time span. And in fact, I received an email yesterday from the president of Wilkinsburg Council. Their contract for 2016 went down almost $100,000.
Well, the numbers we saw reported showed it going up a 13% increase. And in our numbers, we got the proposal from the city where we showed going up over 14% over the 5 years. Those are right from the city's
Right.
proposal that was provided. to
Well,
us
I'm not
council.
arguing those numbers, I'm just saying that my feeling was it was a little misleading in your presentation that there could be additional proposals within that contract, and that's not true. That for manpower, for labor costs and everything.
One of the questions I have, and is also in there, Sam, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but
That's okay.
is what about the overtime costs? In that contract, it's my understanding from looking at it, this is a budgetary line item. You guys can clarify, that's why we're all here tonight. But, does that cover overtime?
Overtime for the city?
Yeah.
Well, we have, like I told you guys before, we have not met with the city, so those are all questions we need to ask them.
No, the mayor called, did you hear that? She didn't do it. No, the mayor called, but she was talking about it.
First of all, if I could get a copy of that, that'd be great. I'm a visual person, and to see it, that would be great again. But you had brought up about selling stations 2 and 3 and proceeds to make a live-in station. Is that something new? I haven't heard any details about that in the past. Is that a new idea, or is that something that's been discussed?
It's
Prior to
something that, I'm sorry, Sam, I
No,
didn't mean to cut
just
you off.
prior to me coming, I just hadn't heard anything about that.
It was not discussed, a living program with this council.
Okay.
When I became chief, I felt that we needed to concentrate on the apparatus for the fire protection of this community. Okay, we at one time were talking about going into one station. We even had a committee that was looking into it. And when I became chief, I requested that that committee be put on hold. That I felt the best thing we could do to move forward was looking to replace our apparatus. As far as the live-in program is concerned, that is something that I've had in the back of my mind, trying to figure out how to do it. But because we've been trying to work out replacing this apparatus, I didn't bring it up because my fear was it would be used against me because, now you want an apparatus and now you want a new building, okay? I believe that from the county records, Station 3 is worth over $180,000. Station 2 is worth over $40,000. I believe if we could sell those stations and bring in a profit, that would be probably the majority of the money to be able to build a station and be able to do something. We're not looking for a Taj Mahal. We're looking for a functional station.
Thank you.
I have nothing, sorry. I don't know nothing.
Two of my biggest concerns with not just the volunteer fire department, but all volunteer organizations in the community are recruitment and fundraising. So I just wondered what your plans were for those two items. I think it's a challenge for everybody, but yours has obviously life-saving consequences. You know, it's a much higher level concern for me. As you know, I've only attended a few meetings between the committee because I was not on the committee. I did ask about the fundraising at one point, didn't quite get the answer I wanted, didn't really get an answer, so I don't know if you guys have discussed it since.
Well, Greg, right now, we currently have 3 different major fundraising things that we do throughout the year. We have our annual mail out that goes out in usually April, and we'll follow up. We have our Sportsman's Bash that we hold in September. And then we have a calendar that we sell for the whole year. It's our Lucky Money calendar. And all established fundraisers and the residents of the community are very good to us in that sense. And I have no doubt that they will continue to support us and that we will continue to receive those donations from our residents. As far as the retention of firefighters, it's a challenge for all volunteer fire departments and all volunteer organizations, like you said. We've had a lot of people step forward. You know, we have constantly put out in our fundraising letter that we're always looking for volunteers. And people realize, hey, wait a minute, They always thought there was enough, we were always there. Now some people are saying, if they're saying there's not enough, I thought about it, it's kind of spurring them on to do it. And we also started a junior firefighter program a few years ago. And we've had 2 juniors successfully go through it now. We have another one in there now, and we got 2 more that are interested in joining, and we're just waiting for their applications and physicals. So we hope with the junior program to start developing that interest, and just continue to stay out there. Sometimes when we're out on calls, we get people to come up and ask us for applications. We do what we can, and, like I said in the numbers, Kraft and Ingram, we're similar in numbers. We all have the same challenge. But that's why we have mutual aid too. During the day, anything comes across a working fire, Kraft and Ingram and your entry all dispatched at the same time. That's why we work together like that. So, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. It's a tough question, I know. Do you feel that the current level of fundraising is ample, to sustain the department?
To sustain operations?
Yeah, do you feel it's an ample amount of money?
Yes. Yes. But we're always open to new ideas. Any opportunity we can to help raise money and help offset costs, we're always open to it. Like I said, we've had residents approach us about the fundraising. They've said they will organize it, run it, everything, So maybe they can't join the department, but they're willing to help the fundraising.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
I'm sorry, I have one.
You talked about fundraising and financials. Do you guys disclose financial information as to what money you raise and where the money goes to and how it's spent? Is that something that we can review to better understand the cost and how the fire department is spending the money?
I think when we presented numbers to councils before you were on there, we presented things that we've purchased over the years. So, I think as far as expenditures, we've shown that. And I'm the chief, and I'm not gonna speak for my department on whether they're willing to discuss full financials. I guess there's a little bit of distrust right now. It kind of makes that a very tough question, to be honest.
I didn't, so yeah, it's not an open book. is what
No.
you're saying, okay.
No.
How about your volunteers and stuff like that? Is there a list that we see that, hey, these are the members of the community that are volunteered? Because when I hear about it through the rumor mill, it was much less than the numbers you present. So is there a way to validate who the members of the fire department are?
There's a couple ways. Number one, you go to our website, okay, and we have a list of all our members on the website, ingramvfd.org. As far as the list, again, this was prior to you joining council, and one of the meetings that we sat with council is we were asked to bring one thing after another, was a list of our firefighters. They went so far as they wanted to know ages of our firefighters. They wanted to know training. We have provided all of that to this council.
Yeah, and I have to disclose, I'm ignorant, I wasn't part of the meeting, so these questions I'm asking are
I understand.
from a green standpoint.
I understand. That's what I'm saying. It's prior to you coming on. I want everybody to understand.
Thank you.
Well,
I have one other. You said there's, just correct this, 30 firefighters on the roster, right?
on our roster, yes.
And 25 active?
25 what we call interior firefighters, capability to gun, SCBA, and fight fires interior.
So that does not include the junior firefighters at all?
No, junior firefighters are not allowed to be
That's
interior
what I
firefighters.
thought. I just wanted to check. And on the website, is that
They are
separated out
separated.
as to who's who?
They are separated, junior
Just
firefighters and.
Because I don't
regular.
know everybody anyways too, so.
Okay, we'll take a few questions out here. Tom?
What's the annual budget that the council gives to the volunteer fire department a year?
Well, I actually have that. Give me a second.
Microphone.
I got it, let me find it back. Is it on?
No.
No, this one, there you go.
Okay. There is actually, is it on? Okay. There's actually a dedicated millage to fire service, and that number was about $52,000 for 2015. That covers things like fuel, utilities, building repair, or vehicle repairs. We were actually over budget on that. It was about 55,072 in 2015. And if you consider that, I think 7,500 of that was actually towards future payments. So we were about $10,000 over budget on that. So it was actually $55,000 for the year 2015. But that is only the dedicated millage. There's additional things like workers' comp, insurance for the equipment, foreign fire, transfer to capital fund. So those total expenditures come out to $47,367. So the total expenditure for fire protection in 2015 is $102,439.
So basically, it's
Hank-
still cheaper than going with the city.
But, wait a second, you said foreign and fire?
Yes.
That is the relief money
Yes.
that is received from the state.
That's
That is
right.
not from
Oh, so
the
that's not
borough
from us.
coffers.
That's not
And
from
that is,
us.
That wasn't the question. What I said was on the expenditure.
I said, how much?
no, Sam, what I'm saying is it needs to be clarified that that money comes from your homeowner's insurance,
Right.
okay? There is a small portion of that that is taken, it's provided to the state based on where you live. That, the state sends a check as a pass-through
That's
through
correct.
the borough
That's correct.
to the fire department.
That's correct.
That does not come out of Ingram Borough taxes.
Right, see,
No, but it comes-
that was my question, Sam, what do we pay to them?
Well, that actually goes to them, but it doesn't.
Out of our taxes, that's
You know what, if you let me answer the question, I'll answer the question. The actual expenditure that goes to the fire department is $102,000. Dawn is correct, and I've said that before, that's pass-through money. You asked what the budget was for the fire department, it is 106.
What do the taxpayers pay?
Okay, take 16 off of that. So it's, what is that, 86,
Okay, so
90,
that's
90.
still less than paying the city every year.
Yes,
That's about 30,000.
yes, but that doesn't include a new fire truck either.
But that's over 20 years or 30 years you want to pay for that.
Regardless, it's still gonna be about $30,000 a year, so if you wanna subtract things, then you have to add things to it.
Right, but I'd rather have people in my community fighting fires in our community than Pittsburgh when they're down in Ferrywood
Okay.
taking care of somebody.
Okay, all right, any other questions? Any other questions about the Ingram Borough proposal? Sorry? Dave, I'm gonna get this gentleman first, yeah, go ahead, you.
Yeah, you stated in the last meeting you had $100,000 already set aside,
For future truck purchase,
okay?
Yeah.
Now they're coming up with $250,000.
okay?
So now you're down to 300,
Well,
now you're down to
perhaps.
400,000. Over 20 years.
right, with it,
That's still
well,
math.
Still a lot cheaper.
You said that if you get the new truck, that it would replace 2 of your apparatuses, correct?
Yes.
Are those apparatuses then sellable?
They're sellable, but because of their age, I'm not sure how much we would get, but we could get, you know, whatever we
There
could
is
get.
still money to be recouped there, though.
There is some.
probably minimal, because of their age.
What would you do with that money? Put that onto the truck?
Ma'am, go ahead. Ma'am?
I honestly think that this is totally ridiculous. This fire company,
Do you have a question about their service?
their service, here's the thing, living in Ingram, okay? There are no calls as far as fires go. And not only the fire department, but the police department, okay? And the thing is, with you stating about the fire trucks and so on and so forth, all they have to do is be taken care of on a yearly basis, inspected, or every 6 months, because they're not used that often.
We had $30,000 in repairs last year. Okay,
So
any
how
other
many
questions?
fires?
We're gonna move on, we're gonna wrap this up and move on to the next presenter. Does anyone have any questions as far as their service?
Hey, Sam, can I clarify one thing before you take the next question? You read our budget numbers, okay? How much of that money is actually given to the fire department? I mean,
Well,
the money provided to us, because
actually-
most of that is expenses.
Well, right, because it's expenses, because the borough pays the expenses for the buildings and for the trucks.
Right, so you're paying for utilities, insurance,
Right.
and maintenance costs. That's really all that the borough is paying for
Well,
us.
I would take it the other direction, what are you paying for?
What are we paying for?
Because we're paying for the buildings, we're paying for the trucks, we're paying for the inspections, I mean, I'm not sure what the, I just wanna hear from Don, I don't know the answer to that question.
I mean, how long have we taken care of Station 3? I mean,
As far
we
as
put
what?
money into, taking care of it, we've built the additions onto it, and we've, maintenance of it. You know, just, what was it, 2 years ago, we put new lights in Station 2 so that the elections would have proper lighting. That came out of our money, we bought those. You know, that station, when the, new roof was put on the last time, those were firefighters that did that. We have helped offset these costs. We work through our relief to buy personal protective equipment, we work through the donations to buy other equipment we use, like thermal imaging cameras, gas meters. I mean, we put out a lot of money, hand tools. So, none of that comes
That
from the
comes out of your
borough.
relief, that's
You-
basically coming out of your relief.
Not all of it,
Okay.
not all of it.
All right, well, we don't see that, so. Okay.
So, but I just wanted to clarify that there's very minimal money. It's mostly for maintenance and building costs and insurance is what that budget is for.
Well, it's $102,000.
No,
Okay,
no,
where's
no,
that? Okay, well, I don't know where it's going.
Sam, you got the budget right here. Here's the budget.
That's the fire protection fund, Dave.
That's right. That's
Workers'
the fire
comp's not on their
protection
insurance.
fund. 2015, in 2015, the projected expenses out of that fund were 54,702. I understand insurance comes somewhere else. You pay the police insurance, you pay public works insurance. It's no different. And as far as the capital budget, that's a separate thing. You put money in for a fire truck, yes you do, but you also put money in for a police car.
I understand that, but the question
you
was
put
how
money
much
in for
comes
the
out
street
towards
department.
fire protection? That was the question.
And yeah.
Okay, we're gonna take one more question, and we're gonna move on to the next presenter, right here.
Okay, I got a question.
Has anyone on
Excuse me.
council, including the mayor?
Excuse me.
I got a question all these people would like to know.
Show them some respect, you wanted
People,
respect.
if you decide to take another fire company, which I think is possible, is our homeowners insurance gonna go up for paying on our houses?
My understanding is it would go down, but I'm not gonna quote that, because that's a question we can ask the city, but they're rated a #1, and what I have been told, and I have no proof of this, is that it would go down. Mr. Harris, we'll take one more, and then we're gonna move to the next presenter.
Has anyone on council, including the mayor, talked to our state representative about possible help from the state?
Well, you've applied for the grant for the truck.
We applied for a FEMA grant through the federal government. And we were
And
kind of,
Representative Patron was very generous to the borough, giving out state money to the borough, computer system for the police. He was very generous. Now, I know they got the problems in Harrisburg now, but I would think that would have been the first thing you would have done, was to contact Representative Deasy to find out if there's any state money possibly available.
Well, that walking around money is gone, that's $10,000 things that they can pass around, that's gone. Money is hard to come by now.
So you're assuming that he can't do it.
Okay.
You know what happens when you assume?
Yeah, okay, all right, well, we're gonna move Excuse me.
Okay, members of council, my name's Mike Crum. I'm the fire chief for the Borough of Crafton. I appreciate the opportunity to present the proposal on behalf of the Borough of Crafton. With us tonight is Ann Scott, our borough manager, who's working computer. Nina Amendola is president of council. Fred Amendola is the Crafton councilman in charge of public safety. And we have Mr. James Gladdy, the borough solicitor. Part of our proposal for the borough of Ingram would be that the Crafton and Ingram boroughs already work together. We already share services. Currently, public safety-wise, the police work together daily. They assist each other and back up each other on a shift-by-shift basis, call-by-call basis. The fire department is currently on the same alarm program as the Ingram Fire Department, first alarm during the day, second alarm at night. We also provide rescue services and assist with QRS to the Ingram Community Ambulance. The magistrate, we share the common magistrate, building code, and inspection. We work together on those issues also. We share the same code official, Mr. Dave Morgan. Public Works, we work together on all the sewer issues, Alcasan, the shopping center sewer issues. The Public Works work together collectively in various programs. Currently, we do have 6 public work members that are firemen. They do respond for us. We share the same Crafton Ingram Shopping Center. We share borders with the Borough of Ingram. Our members and the Borough of Ingram residents, we coincide, we've had for a number of years, going back probably the last 100 years. We are still working on currently the Joint Municipal Comprehensive Plan. We've had various meetings thus far. Some of these issues have led to the fire protection. CIT baseball, Ingram Community softball, we're involved, our members are involved. The Crafton Community Pool, the Crocodile Swim Team opens their rosters for the Ingram Borough residents. And we all work with the Thornburg Borough. We currently provide protection to the Borough of Thornburg. History of the fire department. We were formed in 1890. Currently we have 87 active members. I said 87, sorry. I wish we had 87. We have 37 active members meeting all the requirements and participation requirements every year. We do have an additional, I wish we had 8 juniors. We do have 5 on, but that helps us, and our junior program is thriving. We must meet activity quotas. Our fire department, within our bylaws, we have a quota system that we have to respond. Each member has to have so many points per year. With that activity, that keeps our members active, that keeps them in line with the calls, keeps them experienced, and we do get the members to respond. We must meet the minimum training requirements each year. Currently, in-house training, we have to meet a certain number of points. They have to meet training requirements for the course of the year. As in our point system, 25% of our point system has to be in training for that program. We also require that our members get outside training. We require, and we're currently doing a bylaw change for 10 hours outside training per year, so that we're going to make sure, we want to make sure that we have the most trained fire service in the area. Our members must attain firefighter 1 within 18 months of joining. Our bylaws require that our members reach that criteria. We also have members, most of our members prior to that have gone back and got their firefighter 1, firefighter 2 training. Our current apparatus, we do have a truck, a 2010 KME 100-foot aerial, meets or exceeds the NFPA 1901 requirements for engine and truck operations, quint operations. So it is a quint. We do have a 2,250 gallon per minute pump, 100-foot aerial. It's loaded with the NFPA, exceeds the NFPA requirements for a truck quint apparatus. Our current rescue is a rescue pumper. It has configurations to act as a rescue, and it provides fire service as an engine, and it does meet or exceed the 1901. Again, it's a 2,250 gallon per minute pump. Has a supply line and all the hose and all the NFPA and ISO requirements to comply with all the laws and regulations. Currently have a Seagrave engine. It meets or exceeds the 1901 requirements. Again, that truck is met, we build it for commercial operations. Big pump, big hose, and we put all the equipment on it for big operations. We currently have a squad that runs that, has all the equipment on it as an engine, but it doesn't have the water ladders. So we use this, certain mutual aid responses, certain in-community responses, people movers, and if we need to, it's put into service with all the equipment, all the apparatus and tools that's needed, except for the water and the ladders. We have a quick response vehicle. It's a Department of Health certified quick response vehicle, QRS. We do run numerous calls, I believe. I didn't add any of the QRS numbers into the proposal, but it's somewhere about 326 QRS calls. And then we do have a command vehicle. The CVSD apparatus, in accordance with the DCED assessment fire delivery system report dated December 2013, which I believe Crafton Council and Ingram Council and Carnegie Council all received. In cooperation with Ingram Borough, CVFD will maintain one aerial truck, 3 engines. The CVFD will maintain 1 main station. We're proposing 1 substation at Ingram's leisure, whatever you would propose. We're interested in having a station in the borough of Ingram to access for the residents of the borough of Ingram and to provide support to the fire department. So we're not looking to take all the stations out of Ingram or make that proposal. We'd like to keep a fire station in Ingram Borough. CVFD meets or exceeds all the recommendations within the assessment. Future apparatus and replacement of fire apparatus plans. 2018, we have a replacement plan for the squad. 2020, replacement plan for an engine. And 2030 for a rescue and 35 for an aerial. Just to go over that, our borough has a sinking fund, and we do put money away each year into a fund so that it helps fund future purchases for the fire department. So it's not a big hit all at one time. We do have money set aside. Average response times in 2015, fire responses, lights and sirens used, 7 minutes 48 seconds. EMS response, 5 minutes 56 seconds. Dispatch doing route is 4 minutes and 25 seconds, so that's from where in dispatch to the station, turned out on the road. The above dispatch to arrival is from house to station, turned out, in truck, on scene. There's some of the better numbers within the West region. They call it the Channel 2 dispatch area. EMS response dispatch doing routes 3 minutes and 7 seconds. So we're pretty proud of these numbers. As you'll see later on, they do meet and exceed the NFPA standard. Current Ingram Volunteer Fire Department statistics via the Allegheny County CAD. The call volumes have gone up and down over the last couple of years. Currently, using the CAD data, there was 52 calls in various hours as part of our study. When asked for a proposal, we looked and said, what are we going to do? Where are these calls coming from? How can we staff these calls? Are we 100% sure that the fire department will have the manpower available and staff these calls? Looking at the study, sitting down with the numbers, we have no issue with that. With the 52 calls, we'll add roughly about 5 calls per month to our call volume. So we're pretty confident that this will happen. As dispatched for structure fires, which is the tones come in as dispatched and as arrived, are 2 different calls. So if you get a structure fire comes in as smoke coming from an outlet, that's dispatched as a structure fire, as should it be. As you arrive on scene, you may find it's a smoke condition or electrical condition. So we use the as dispatched to get the material or to get the statistics, and as you can see, it averages about 6 structure calls a year, which we feel is comfortable for us to staff. The Crafton Fire Department instance, to compare, again, we were at 303 and 13. Last year we were 271. and we cross-referenced that data to tie it together to make sure that staffing requirements and the data requirements were right, so that I felt comfortable for the proposal for the Borough of Crafton, so I could comfortably say, we don't have an issue with this. If I personally had one bit of caution with any of these numbers, we've discussed it and there wouldn't be a proposal today. We feel comfortable with these numbers in support of the Ingram program, and if you decide that you're going to change fire protection, we're comfortable that we can do that. Average response times, 2015, our truck was on the road in 8 minutes and 33 seconds and arrived. Rescue is 7 minutes 92 seconds, engines 8:73, and the squad's 10 minutes. Typically squad, these numbers are not lights and sirens, so meaning that these numbers could be smell of natural gas outside, some non-emergency responses, CO2 or carbon monoxide, no ill effects, accident cleanups, those types of things. So these numbers, especially the squad numbers, are a little higher because we do not go lights and sirens to the less emergency, where there's no life, health, or property issues, so that we keep our members safe. Command vehicles typically on scene within 6 minutes, assessing and giving a size up of the situation. CVFD firemen responding, again, these are an average. As you can see, typically in a fire situation, we have anywhere between 12 and 18 members that respond on average to these calls. So NFPA requirement is 16, and we're well within using mutual aid during the day within these requirements. And we haven't had an issue. We have not scratched a call. We tried to look at the data back to 2002, and we couldn't find a call being scratched. Incidents by area for Crafton, 142 incidents, Roslyn Farms and Thornburg, which we also contract fire protection, of 22 and 8. We provided mutual aid response to Ingram for the last 70 years. We had 13 calls. Carnegie 43, Braintree 16, Robinson, and Scott. We are a very active fire department. We take pride in that. We feel that in order to be more active, you are more trained and you see more things. Experience is everything. Practice makes perfect. So we want to get our guys experience. We want to get them active. We want to get them out there on the roads. Anticipated call increase. CVSD anticipated call volume of 55 calls per year. We're looking at an average 5 to 6 calls additional per month, an average of 2 working fires per year. Currently, we are the 7th busiest station in the West Fire District. That will, with the numbers added, will drop to about the 7th busiest station. Under the NFPA 1720 Standard for Organizations and Deployment of the Fire Suppression Operations, CVFD meets or exceeds the national standard for volunteer fire departments. The standard's less than 1,000, or it's actually more than 1,000 people per square mile. 15 men, minimum 9 minutes, 90% of the time. I take great pride in telling you that we meet that requirement 100% of the time. Also, the NFPA 1710 standard, 1720, standard for structure fires alarm program, CVFD meets or exceeds that. Provisions for cover of the functions, objectives, fire department emergency service delivery, response capabilities, resources, including staffing and response times and level of service. So generally, this is covering everything to do to a structure fire within a certain amount of time, 9 minutes with 15 people. We meet or exceed that. The general criteria for managing resources and systems, such as the health, safety, and incident management, we also take good pride in that. Our proposed alarm program to show the residents and the Borough Council is the first alarm assignments. We would include Greentree as it currently is done, and we will add Stowe as a writ on the second alarm, 118-256, which is Scott Township and Moon Run, and then it follows through. I just implored to act as Allegheny County through the 911 system. Typically, volunteer fire departments, if we're going to look at the proposal from the city of Pittsburgh, and I see their map, beside me. They are one organization, a fine organization. Within our organization, volunteers within the Allegheny County guidelines and 911 system, you kind of have to treat the whole county under 911 as one fire department. So as we get dispatched, we have mutual aid agreements with all the other fire departments through the 911 system, and therefore we're guaranteed response. We have all the hazmat responses, fire marshal, and all those type of things through the Allegheny County 911 center. The NFPA recommendations meet or exceed comprehensive equipment testing programs. We currently do all the testing that's required by the NFPA, hose testing, pump testing annually. Aerial and ground ladders tested on an annual basis. Rescue tools are tested on an annual basis. And the SCBA are tested on an annual basis. So we do those. It's a little bit of chunk of money, about $7,500 out of our budget to do those things. But in my opinion, and for our firefighters in Crafton, safety is paramount. So I want to spend that money to do the testing so that the safety of the firemen are paramount, and that there's no failure of that equipment if a rescue operation needs to be taken in underway. NFPA 1001, Standard for Firefighter Professional Qualifications. The NFPA 1001 is a national standard for all firefighters, paid or volunteer. That's the firefighter one that Dawn had talked about. The state designated curriculum, all courses are taught under state standard. It doesn't matter if I'm taking a firefighter one here in Pittsburgh under Allegheny County, the city's doing their firefighter one under the Pittsburgh Bureau of Fire Training Academy, or somebody's doing their training out of Harrisburg. All the standard, we use the same curriculum. We're all trained to the same standard. It's a national test, and we're following that. All CVFD members, again, are required to obtain firefighter 1 status in 18 months, firefighter 2 status within 24 months. This has been recommended and is in a bylaw adoption process for the fire department. It is paramount for us to meet the minimum qualifications, not just exceed the qualifications for our members. Hazmat awareness has to be done within 18 months. Basic first aid, everything that's required under the firefighter 1 process has to be completed within our time frame. The NFPA 1582 on comprehensive health, all ZVFD members must meet or exceed this standard. Basically, it's a standard outlines the occupational medical program that will reduce risk and provide health, safety, and effectiveness of firefighters operating and protecting civilian life and property. We require that our members get a NFPA designated physical. The NFPA is a recommendatory body. We accept that recommendation. We send every member out to outside testing, comprehensive testing from pulmonary tests, chest x-ray, stress tests, blood testing, audio, hearing tests. We do all that to meet or exceed. We want to make sure that we have a baseline when members come into the fire department of what testing they have. And then we set up programs where they go back and get physicals. We do not do it yearly, but we do it if you're 18 to 30, I believe it's every 5 years. From 30 to 50, it's every 3 years. Over 50, it's every year. So we want our members to follow the medical guidelines so we know what's going on with them and they're safe. All CVFD members meet or exceed minimum qualifications. The ages of our members from 16 to 70. With that, our average age is roughly 36.6 years old. So we're not, if you look at it as a bell curve, it's great to have members within the 18 to 30 range. They're the members that are going to do all the work. We also have the members that are doing the training, the officers, and those types of things. And we do have a member, one member in his 60s, 2 members. One's an assistant chief, was an old battalion chief for the city of Pittsburgh, and another one that acts as our safety officer. Under NFPA 1583, health-related fitness programs within the fire service, we've adopted 1583. This standard outlines the complete health-related fitness program for our members in the fire department involving emergency operations and perform the ability of occupational activities, reduce risk, and those types of things. Basically, we want our firemen to be able to go out and do the job. So if our guys can't get up off the couch, or, you know, they lose their breath walking up steps, that's a hindrance to us. It's also a hindrance to their safety, health, safety, and welfare. So we train them, and we want them to go through the process and get physical fitness. We've attained a state or a federal grant a number of years ago. We do have a fitness facility in our station. We have some loose requirements for members to use that and become physically fit. We also, I'm happy to say that that weight room, that fitness center is used daily. If you walk through our station, you will see people in there doing cardio, strength and conditioning, those types of things. They want to get there so they can continue into the fire service and be valuable assets to our department. CVFD membership, we're familiar with the Ingram Borough. We have existing mutual aid with Ingram Borough. We will modify our bylaws. If tonight or at a later date you decide to move in a different direction with the fire service, we will honor any member of the Ingram Fire Department wishing to join the Crafton Fire Department. We will adopt and change our bylaws to make sure these men and women that love volunteering for their community have a place to land and keep volunteering for their community. Their years of service, we will also grant, we had a meeting within our bylaws, we'll change. We'll grant years of service to the members of the Ingram Fire Department. That is a tradition that's gone on here. We understand the situation. We will grant those years of service to the members of the Ingram Fire Department. And current Firefighter 1 certification, the members will be granted instant approval through the Firefighter 1 certification. If you're Firefighter 1, you don't have to go through the probationary process. You will be brought right into the fire department as a full-fledged member. If you don't have the Firefighter 1 process, we'll get you through the process to get you trained and get you through the process to get on the rolls of the fire department. Allegheny County Fire Academy in 2005. We've done a ton of trainings with that. Incident Safety Officer, Firefighter 1, or Fire Officer 1, Fire Officer 2. We've had a lot of gentlemen go through that program. Hazardous Material Operations, Pump 1, Pump 2. Make sure they're trained correctly on pump operations, truck operations, electrical emergencies, rapid intervention team drills, and rapid intervention teams, which means rapid intervention team is you go in if a firefighter's down, those teams go in and rescue those firefighters out of that atmosphere and bring them out. In-house training, we're continually doing SCBA training. The most vital part in a structure fire is your SCBA, which is the self-contained breathing apparatus with the mask that they wear. We do comprehensive training in that, quarterly certifications. You have to make all the quarterly certifications to wear an SCBA. It doesn't matter. We want you active. We want you to train with that equipment so that you can be fruitful on the scene of a call. Basic vehicle rescue, vehicle fire, structure firefighter rescue, we've done a lot of training in. Rope and technical rescue, incident command, we've done a lot of tabletop exercises with that, and the art of reading smoke. So we go through these things every year. This year we have a whole new list, and there's an annual list of hazmat awareness, hazmat ops refreshers that we go through, and we make sure our members have that also, basic first aid, those types of things. The assessment of the firefighter or fire service conclusions, the consolidation report of the Crafton Ingram Fire Departments into one organization. You guys had that report sent to you. The consolidation of the 3 Ingram stations into one, the running mean station, whatever station you guys feel appropriate, we're willing to work with you in that process and leave a station here, and hopefully the members come over and work with us to still provide the same service to the residents of Ingram Borough. Create a new command structure for the fire department. If we take on Ingram, there's probably going to be a need if we have an influx of members to recreate a fire command structure so that we take on those members and understand their willingness. Consolidate the standard operating guidelines. Currently, there's 2 different guidelines. They will all be adopted under one guideline as recommended in the report. And obviously sell the older Ingram fire apparatus. The Borough of Ingram will continue regular maintenance on the running mean station, NFPA 1901, complying engine, 1 rescue, reduced response times. What we're proposing, give us a station, it's been mentioned, maybe running mean station, If that's the station you feel that you want to let us use, we will run a minimum of 1 engine and 1 squad out of that station for manpower. We want the residents to understand that we want the firemen to come over and assist with us. This will reduce response times both for Crafton and Ingram by having a station over here, and we're happy and we're willing to do that. The CBFD is familiar with the current Ingram Volunteer Fire Department membership. We'd like those folks to transfer over if council so wishes. 1 department mixed membership is what we're looking for. Cost proposal, Crafton Borough has approximately 6,000 residents, Ingram Borough 3,000 residents. Our annual budget last year was $192,150. Our per capita cost was roughly $61 or $61.78. Crafton Borough should actual total expended for fire services be lower than budgeted. Totals for any shared services. The Borough of Crafton will transfer remaining funds into a major equipment fund. Again, basically, what our proposal is to you, I believe it's the next slide. Anything that's over the expenses, we will put into a special fund to further buy apparatus to support the venture. Proposed cost for 2016, $50,000. 2017, $52,000, and it goes up on a 4% annual increase basis. Community relations. You heard all the good things that the Ingram Fire Department does with the community. We do the same things. We will extend those services to the boroughs of Ingram. We've already do those for the boroughs of Roslyn Farms and Thornburg, so we would extend those for various parades, fire standbys, community craft and celebrates. We do now Ingram Days, fire prevention at all the schools, fire prevention workshops, both in-house and external, industry fire extinguisher training. We do train a lot of industry in our fire district on fire extinguishers, Halloween details, Santa details, station tours, open house. All those things we will extend over to the borough of Ingram. Are there any questions?
I like the data you put in here. I wish I would have that on the first one. Some of the information you have as far as response time, how many calls you get, and things to that effect. Is that public record information that I can go hit a button someplace and pull up the same stuff for our borough and how it currently rates?
A lot of it's difficult to get. You can do a right-to-know request through Allegheny County Dispatch. The fire service could provide those numbers through their National Incident Management System. They can run those numbers. That's how I generally generated all the data for the Crafton Fire Department. So, and then I used the 911 CAD system to generate some of those other numbers.
Would we be able to get something like that from Ingram Department? With the numbers and response times and things to that effect?
Or we could get something together for you.
It would be nice to have something to compare. It seems like good stuff to compare.
Okay, you said that everybody has to have a firefighter 1 status within 18 months.
That's correct.
And then it's recommended at 24 months, but you're working on putting in the bylaws?
It's recommended currently. We are to have a bylaw change that will be firefighter 2 within 24 months.
Okay, so should that go through, or when that goes through, that would be?
That would be any new member into the fire service.
Would that be applicable to the Ingram firefighters?
It
Should they
depends.
join,
Yeah,
should they choose?
We haven't looked at that issue. We wish that if something happens, they will come over. We'll honor that, but we also always push for members going back for continuing education, continuing training. So that's something that we will work with. Under the old system, firefighter 1, came into, effect. It's always been a recommendation, but fire stations started to adopt it under the NIMS process and granting processes through the state fire grant, commissioner's grant. And by doing that, we felt that the best way, if the fire commissioner is requiring that and gives you extra credit for granting, we want it to be mandatory so we can get the most money we can get. And those new members coming in should have that. But what happened was we had a lot of the older members that already had, training and years of experience. They all went, I can't say all of them, most of them went back and recertified and got their firefighter 1.
Now, for my lack of knowledge on this, is firefighter 2 the highest you go?
It goes up through the process. Firefighter 2 for a firefighter, there's fire officer 1, fire officer 2, instructor levels. So it keeps going up through the process, fire inspector. There's a lot of different avenues you can go. Firefighter 2 typically is the highest training for the firemen, so to
Unless you
speak.
go to be an officer.
Yes, and fire officer and, investigator and all those types of things.
Thank you.
Hi, Mike, thanks for coming. As far as a multi-municipal, allegiance, I guess you call it an affiliation maybe, would there be any savings as far as grant is concerned, grants?
You mean if we provided the service? Right now that, I've talked to the State Fire Commissioner's Office and the Allegheny County, and if there was a jointure, absolutely, grants would be extended. More money, I believe it would be double your state grant. It was 5 years, there's now legislation to extend that to 10. We would be able to double our state grant if we roughly get 13.7 something. So that would be able to be doubled, but because it's not a jointure or a consolidation merger type thing, we would be ineligible for those types of things.
Okay. And the other question I had was as far as workman's compensation, since that would be a contracted service, would we still pay workman's compensation to?
No, we would, the Borough of Crafton would have to take on those costs, and we factored that into the proposal. Those costs would be generated off of you because we supply the farm.
We would continue to pay for hydrants, so.
You would continue to pay for hydrants.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mike, quick question. I was looking at, you said you had 37 active members, but when I
It's-
looked at the breakdown.
Yeah,
says
it's
there's
actually higher now because last Monday we had 4 new people come in.
Okay.
So, but I didn't go back and change everything and do those types of things. We didn't do it, but we did have extra members. Came in, I believe it was 1 junior and 3 regular fire.
Hi, Mike. Over here. You mentioned keeping a station open in Ingram, if this were to happen. How would you plan to staff that, or how would that work out logistically? Because and hopefully if it did happen, some of our members would join,
Yeah.
and they would be living in, residents of Ingram. But say that did not happen.
We do have a lot of fringe firemen in the city area off Stratmore Street, off Middletown, like Steuben Street area. They would be redirected over into a Ingram station. And we do want the Ingram firemen to come over and be part of, we want to welcome everybody we can to become a part of the fire service and keep giving to the residents of the borough. So that's our hope, that's our wish that would happen. If that would not happen and Ingram firemen would not come over, we still could staff that station, but we'd have to look at the long-range goal and getting membership into that station so that it can be run effectively and efficiently.
And I'd like to ask you the same question I asked our department, is about recruitment and fundraising.
Recruitment and fundraising. Let's take recruitment and retention first. We do a lot of different things to recruit members through the schools. The junior program for us has been phenomenal. We have about 9 members that have gone through that process so far. What is nice, when you have a junior program, typically because of the volunteers, they can't stay. The 188 hours is a lot to ask a person maybe married, has some family to go through the academy. So we like to get them young, put them through the academy, give them their training, and then get them retrained through the process. And then we have different incentive programs for them to keep them active and make sure that they're there. So we don't, we try to treat them like employees and make them happy so that they do stay. And there is some issues with the state that they're going through, that the State House and Senate are looking at different bills to support volunteer firefighters in terms of possible tax rebates or income tax breaks, those types of things, wage taxes.
How about your fundraising?
Fundraising activities, currently we do a yearly mailer for the fundraiser. We do night at the races, casinos nights, craft and celebrates. We do a lot of different things like that to bring in the revenue to the fire department. We have other rental incomes that we have for rental properties that we do have also. that are a constant fund into the fire department.
How long have you been chief?
Since 2010,
How long have you been in the department?
28 years.
That's all I have, thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, I just had one more question. Chief Browning mentioned about a live-in program. Have you guys ever thought of that?
Yeah, actually, we are currently, if you come over to the station, we have the upstairs conference room. That conference room, we're changing into a duty room. We have an office next to it that the next evolution is to change and put some bunk quarters in that station. We looked at a bunch of different programs that have live-in programs. We're looking at CCAC kids, you know, PTI, those types of kids, some PIT, because we're in a area that the kids live here, then bus into the city of Pittsburgh. If we can capture some of those kids, it will help support our daylight response. Our daylight response is actually pretty good because we do have our public works guys, we do have our code enforcement official, we do have crossing guards. Our borough has done a great job, and I applaud them to employ personnel that are part of the fire service. All of our summer help are typically the kids going to college that are our firemen, so that we have that response during the day.
Do you ever have a time when, you know, they're doing paving or something that they can't leave?
Yeah, that will happen. There's certain projects, but typically Rob and the guys know who's the key figures and where should we go. It hasn't happened yet where they're all stuck out, but one or two sometimes in a paving situation. In snow falls, we're not going to ask them to endanger the residents. We're going to let them do their plowing, but some of the other ancillary guys will respond. Plus, we have a good crew of members that work in other avenues, landscaping businesses. Some work for U.S. Steel, shift work. Police officer, we do have a police officer. He works shift work, so knock on wood, we've had no problems with that.
Okay. And your average call volume is what, 300 now?
Somewhere, right, that's not including QRS, you add that in, it jumps.
Okay, Mike, it seems like you guys have a pretty aggressive program for new vehicles. And I'm just wondering how you see that affecting future contracts if we would go with you for this.
Well, we don't see a difference. We've talked about that. The call volume that's generated in Ingram, we feel that we're going to replace those vehicles at that interval anyways. Those miles are coming on the vehicles, so we don't feel that there's going to be a very distinct difference in how we will replace our vehicles.
Okay, and the other question I had was your mutual aid response.
Yes.
That you guys are responding to a lot of different communities in various forms.
Yes.
Do you see maybe you're spreading yourself too thin though, that if you have an incident in Carnegie or an incident in Thornburg that you can't respond to multiple places? It keeps going on.
In terms of the response, he asked if we are spreading ourselves thin. It's because we do mutual aid. Typically, our fire department is a little bit different than some of the others. We don't send our station to mutual aid calls, or do I ask for stations to come into Crafton. For instance, Scott Township called us in the beginning of December. They had 6 or 7 units going at the same time. That was just one engine response from Crafton. I'm not going to send all the troops to a surrounding municipality. We have contracted services for Crafton, for Roslyn Farms and Thornburg, so we also have to hold services back for us, but we will backfill ourselves in those situations with mutual aid companies, and we have people at the station so they can run collectively together. So we treat it as one big organization under the 911 system. The city has the ability to just transfer vehicles within the city to that. We use various different departments within the Allegheny County Western region.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else up here? We'll turn it over. Does anyone in the audience have a question? Yeah.
Yes, so how many additional members do you feel that you'll need to recruit to support our borough?
Currently, I'm pretty confident with the call volume that recruitment and retention, we can keep recruiting. I can't put a number on that. I feel that our current gentleman can actually answer those extra 5 calls a month in Ingram Borough. We're aggressively will seek the members of the Ingram Fire Department to assist us with that. That is their community. We want them to be a part of the system.
Anyone else? You in the back, sir.
Are you financially able to take this new part of Ingram on?
Yeah, as far as the fire department and the borough.
Fire department?
Fire department, we're very financially stable. We have, that's been a question that was brought up a couple times in the consolidation study. We're very financially stable. We have our building that's paid, one of the mortgages has been paid off. We have not had any problems. We had some problems back in 2009 with theft. That situation is gone. We've regenerated ourselves. And we have no financial issues at this time. In terms of the borough, we're very financially stable, as I was on council not too long ago, and I know that we have a considerable amount of fund balance.
Two questions. One is, with the equipment that our firefighters here have, all the safety equipment and all that kind of stuff, I wasn't sure, was there an allowance for that, or are you not even counting on that, or what happens there?
In our proposal, we'll accept that equipment. That's part of the discussions we still have to further have if we are chosen to be for fire protection for Ingram Borough. Currently, we don't know exactly what's borough owned, what's fire department owned, what's relief associated owned, but currently I feel very, very comfortable with the equipment we have in the borough of Craft, and we can supply fire protection for the residents of the borough every night.
Okay, well, I have the two questions. The second question is, with your numbers up there, right now, are these pretty much locked-in numbers that you see, that you're proposing?
I would have to defer to the borough manager. I got these numbers, and we're pretty comfortable with that.
Yeah, council met, and we all agreed that these are the figures, and the remaining budget, money that is not utilized during this time, we would give you like an annual report, and anything that was left over, if we didn't spend $50,000 in 2016, that would be put into moved to an account that we could buy for future equipment.
Capital improvement.
Capital improvement, because we already send $25,000 a year, every year, from our budget to the capital improvement for equipment as well.
But that would be contractual, and that number wouldn't change in those 5 years.
That's correct.
The only thing that would be different is the hydrants, and that's gonna be.
That's an expense that
That's
they-
Ingram's responsibility, that's the only thing that would be Ingram.
Is there?
Now, you got another one. This is three now.
I know, there's three. I just popped into my mind. As far as ratings, you know, they talked about Pittsburgh Fire Department's rated #1 or whatever insurance-wise, and someone asked a question about that. Is that, do you have some kind of a rating, or are all volunteers kind of rated different than full-time paid?
The Insurance Services Organization does give various municipal fire departments a rating. The city of Pittsburgh just obtained ISO Class 1. Currently, us and the Ingram Fire Department are ISO Class 3. They changed the formulary for the ISO classifications to tie more into, it used to be a total different classification, and it sometimes did not make sense for fire departments. They've changed that formulary to tie more into the NFPA standards, and we are currently looking at the ISO to get re-evaluated. I'm not going to kid anybody, it's not going to be an ISO 1 just because of the staffing manpower. There is a differential that they use if you're not a career fire department to knock that out. But in terms of the ISO classification, I feel very, very comfortable that we would move to a 3.
Yeah.
Gib?
Yes, Chief Accountant. You referenced many NFPA standards and recommendations related to the Crafton Volunteer Fire Department. To your knowledge, your understanding, are there any of those standards or recommendations that the Ingram Volunteer Fire Department does not meet?
Well, why don't we let Dawn answer that? I mean, I don't want him to speak for you.
I'd have to look at his list, but I can say this, as he was going through it, there are a lot of standards we do meet absolutely. We do a lot of the same testing to meet standards. And the only thing I probably couldn't speak on is, we'd have to look it up, as asking for, is about response times. But but I believe we need those.
Wait. You done? I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Chief Crown's language repeatedly has been, if we choose Crafton, are we going to get to vote, or is the council making this decision?
Well, contrary to what everyone in this room believes, this is the first time we're hearing this information too. We have not met with the city. I have not met with any of these people prior to tonight. Council, we have 3 new members. We have not met with the city. I don't know what the timetable is going forward. Well, we don't know either, because, I mean, we haven't got that far. We didn't even have the information about the service. So we haven't really gotten that far. Okay?
Chief Crown, in your honest opinion, after this five-year contract's over, do you think Ingram could come back in? Or are we locked out? Do you think we wouldn't be able to have a fire department regardless?
I couldn't answer that because I don't know the inner workings of the fire department's board of governors, their bylaws, their statutory requirements. I don't know that. So
basically, the financial hit that we take would knock us out from having a future fire department.
It depends. I don't know the financial status of the fire department itself, so that's not a question that I could answer.
From what you heard, what do you think?
Well, I don't think that's
We didn't
really
hear
a
any of the
question for him.
I can't really discuss that.
Okay, anyone else? We're gonna move on. What, Dave?
Yeah, Mike, you mentioned some financial issues back in 2009,
Yeah.
2010. I wonder if you could address what financial controls you put into place to combat that at the fire department level, and also maybe at the borough level, if that.
Sure.
If that.
We did have some theft of funds. It was widely reported news-wise. We do have a certified public accountant now that handles all the books of the fire department. We do have a process in place that's adopted by the certified public accountant, how we go through that. We do report to the borough on all of our funds. We do have budgets through the boroughs. We submit all of our receipts to the borough of Crafton, and that whole thing's behind us. We're moving on. We became stronger, so.
Okay, Don, you had another question?
I asked this of the Ingram
Turn
Volunteer.
left.
I asked this of the Ingram Volunteer Fire Department. A lot of financial questions have come up. Are we able to look at your books and see how you
Absolutely.
stand financially?
Absolutely. Our borough has our financials. You can look at the borough's financials. We filed the 1090s or 990s for nonprofit organizations, 501c4 organization. We file all those tax returns. They're readily available through online. I can try to get you those financials also if that's required.
Okay, we'll take one more, and then we're gonna move on to the next presenter.
Chief, when you were talking about this possible proposal internally, what was your motivation? What made you say, this is a good idea for us? Was it financial? Was it community concern? What was the conversation like?
A lot of different things. We've worked well with the Ingram Fire Department. I've talked to Dawn, I've talked to Dave, I've talked to George Beerholder, the past chief. We've worked over this process a long time. We adopted, or we followed through with a study for fire protection models in 2010. We worked through that process. So believe me, it's tough to come here and present or against another brother volunteer organization. So there was a lot of internal strife within myself and some of the fire department itself and within the borough. But we hammered it out and we said, what's in the best interest of everybody involved? I tried, myself and our fire department tried to be as welcoming and as straightforward with the members of the Ingram Fire Department. We would love for them to become part of our organization if we would have the proposal. So, that there was a struggle, absolutely, but we decided after looking at the numbers, we didn't just sit down and say, yep, we're doing this. We had to break out all the numbers, study the response times, break out all the charts. We had post-it notes all over the wall, the big post-it notes, those types of pros, cons, what we can do, just so we know and we felt 100% confident that we can provide protection to the borough of Ingram.
Okay. I think we're done here. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
City of Pittsburgh. I'd like to introduce first the new Public Safety Director for the City of Pittsburgh, Mr. William Heskrich. And on my left is Assistant Fire Chief Thomas Cook. And we're here to give you a presentation on the proposal that the City of Pittsburgh has prepared. We're going to run through an overview of the Bureau, of the Pittsburgh Bureau of Fire, and then we're going to run through specifically how we anticipate and have planned the response into your borough. So Chief Cook, if we could start, and we'll just run through the presentation.
As Deputy Director Huss said, my name is Thomas Cook. I'm the Assistant Fire Chief of Operations for the Bureau. I was asked to put together a proposal on how we would provide fire protection services to the Borough of Ingram. This is the result of that. So rather than belabor the point, we are a large metro career fire department. We are staffed 30 fire stations with 4 districts. As you can see, 29 engine companies, 11 truck companies, mobile air unit, 5 hazmat units, and we are staffed 100% of the time, 24/7. Approximately 163 personnel, actually that's the minimum, 163 people on duty, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We also run a vehicle repair garage, a supply warehouse, our own SCBA repair shop, a training academy, and that's about 20 people on any given day. In administration, we have our budget and finance officers, our IT people, personnel office, and a prevention office, which is about 12 people right now. So when we looked at Ingram, we felt that 65 calls a year, somewhat substantially less than a square mile, we would absorb that into our existing 116 zone, okay? So the City of Pittsburgh's broken up into fire zones. The first number, the 1, means that you guys would be part of District 1, and then you're part of what is already an existing fire zone, which is 116. And that would be covered out of our 30 house up on Steuben Street, right? So if we look at a first alarm assignment, if you want to move the pins or... Okay. We could do a little show and tell and make it interactive here. All right? So on a first alarm, we would respond with 29 engine, 30 engine.
Which is where?
Okay, sorry. 29 is off Nobletown Road.
Okay.
30 engine is on Steuben Street.
Okay.
31 engine is over in Chartiers. Right? And 37 engine comes from Manchester across. Because Zone 116 also covers the Thornburg Industrial Park, so it's what we call a high hazard zone. So you guys actually get an additional engine company on your first alarm assignment here. Additionally, we would move 30 truck out of Steuben Street. You get the MAC unit, which is our mobile air compressor unit, Battalion Chief 1, and Battalion Chief 4. And that's a total of 24 people on the first alarm. Okay. Additionally, on this first alarm, which we didn't want to necessarily do on the board, obviously now we have a hole in fire protection in the West End. There are what we call automatic transfers within the city where we relocate fire companies throughout the rest of the city based upon a pre-established run card that allows us to maintain fire protection for the rest of the city. Okay? You want to see how they move around or? Okay, sure.
Now what's the time to get to all those, from those trucks to here?
All right, so on the first.
Let's save our questions to the end, please.
On the first alarm assignment, engine 27 transfers into engine 31. Engine 28 transfers into 27. Engine 26 transfers into 28. And engine 4 transfers into engine 37. And we get 32 truck transfers over to station 30. 6 truck transfers into 32 truck, and 8 truck moves into 6 truck. Okay? So we redistribute the fire companies in the city to make sure there are no significant gaps in fire protection. If the incident in Ingram would go to a second alarm, meaning we need more than the 24 people we're bringing initially, we would get 27 engine, 32 engine, and 32 truck. This is where it gets confusing because you have to keep track of the transfers. This is all managed by computer at the dispatch center. Okay? Did you move 32 trucks?
We're all at the second alarm, and now we get a second alarm transfer.
So for the second alarm would bring a total of 37 people into the borough of Ingram. The second alarm transfers would be 4 engine into 31 engine, 3 engine into 37 engine, 6 engine into 3, 7 engine into 6, strict district, yeah. And 28 moves into 30. Which group they moved up. And 22 moves into 27. Okay? So that's the way our response system works in the city. If we would go to a third alarm, you would get 2 additional engines, 4 engine and 28 engine, 4 truck. They're still in their corner. And BC2 from out of Oakland. All right, and Unit 40, which is the Assistant Chief of Operations, that would be me. I'm off to the side there if you want. Can't forget myself, right? Okay. And again, we could continue the process, moving pins on the board. I don't know that that really proves anything unless you guys want to go through the mechanics of it. I didn't think so. All right. On the 4th alarm, we'd have a total of 60 fire personnel in the borough. If we end up at a 5th, it would be 72 people in the borough of Ingram. And at the 5th alarm, we still have the ability to provide fire protection to the rest of the city of Pittsburgh. All right. And again, not to belabor the numbers, I don't want to try and come across. If you look at our 2014 run statistics, the total runs for the Fire Bureau were 45,709 calls for service. All right. Most of those, as you can see, are 23,978 EMS responses. Right now, the City of Pittsburgh Fire Bureau provides first responder services throughout the city. We follow the 1710 standard, just like Crafton talked about the 1720, which is the standard for deployment and staffing for volunteers. 1710 is the standard for staffing and deployment for career departments. And we are staffed 24/7, 365. Minimum on duty is 163. That is required by the collective bargaining agreement with Local 1. Right? Our turnout time, meaning from dispatch to vehicle on the road, is less than 60 seconds over 90% of the time. That's what we're required to do. That's the standard, and we meet that standard. Our first unit on scene is less than 44 minutes, 97% of the time. So the first fire truck gets to the call in less than 4 minutes. The whole first alarm, so for Ingram, that's 4 engines, the truck, and 2 chiefs, less than 8 minutes, 90% of the time. That's the standard. We meet or exceed those standards. Right? We also participate in the certification process. We are the only metro fire department in the United States that is 100% credentialed under the certification, the NFPA standards 1001. 100% of the firefighters are certified firefighter 2, hazmat operations. 100% of our officer corps, lieutenants, captains, and chiefs have completed training We haven't completed the certification process. Fire Officer 1, Fire Officer 2, and in Fire Inspector 1. Okay, and as been tossed around all evening, we're rather proud of this. We just achieved our ISO Insurance Service Offices Class 1. Out of the roughly 200,000 fire departments nationwide, 143 are Class 1 departments. We are one of those. And I'll open it up to questions.
Thank you.
There was a question brought up after Crafton's presentation that could stick to you. Earlier there was talk about a transfer amount of money that gets passed along to the fire department from, I guess, the homeowner's insurance. Is that same amount then passed on to you guys as opposed to wherever it's going now?
No, that money is distributed two different ways in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. For career departments, that money goes all to pension. So based on the number of firefighters the city of Pittsburgh employs, on June 30th of the calendar year, we get the credits for their pension. So it's very similar to what we would for police officers, and just like you get for municipal workers. So the firefighters count for 2 units, so it's 2 units each, and that money goes directly into the pension fund. Volunteer departments get to have that money for the purchase of safety equipment and things like that. So that money really is not, it's based on the number. The city's going to get whatever number of firefighters we employ, that's the number we're going to get.
I want to clarify, to our knowledge, Wilkinsburg was brought up earlier, of whether or not their new contract went up or down. Gene, are you able to?
Yes, I can speak to that. I led the effort the first time, 5 years ago, and we, even though they haven't, I don't think they've actually voted on it yet, they intend to. It expires in April, so we were up for a new 5-year renewal. When we projected the 5-year contract for Wilkinsburg 5 years ago, we based that on the collective bargaining agreement we had in place at the time and what we could project our personnel costs were. We also had projections in there for things like healthcare insurance and the other costs the city had. Now understand, it's completely different than what we're proposing here. Wilkinsburg had paid professional firefighters. They had 26 paid professionals, of which 25 of them came to the city. So we had a complicated issue where we had to pay pension payments for the time that they've already worked, and there was a lot of complications to that. So it's different, but those collective bargaining costs, when we went to evaluate now to price out the next 5 years, we found that what Wilkinsburg was actually paying was less, or they were paying more than what our actual costs were. So what we did is we locked them in for the next 3 years at the same rate. So the rate they would pay for 16, 17, and 18 is the same rate that they paid in 15 that we proposed 5 years ago. Because the city has, and the biggest driver of that was our health care costs didn't increase at the rate we anticipated it would at the time. So there was some savings in there that, when you're projecting 5 years out, it's, yeah. So their proposal then goes up, I believe it's 3%, and that's the raise that the firefighters get in 19, and then the other year, I think we kept it at 3% also. So in anticipation of not knowing what that next collective bargaining agreement is going to say. So for them, I think that they're happy. They're very happy. They were happy with those numbers when we re-proposed them, and we've been able to maintain and control our costs.
And I know it's hard to make a 5-year projection or past a 5-year projection, but one of my concerns right now is what does happen year 6. And like I said, I know it's hard to make that projection. It's just
and it's based on collective bargaining. Understand whatever I think what the methodology that was laid out here is basically our cost and what we costed out per incident. Are those rates going to go up? Probably. Firefighters are going to bargain and get raises. You would anticipate that they would go up. Are they gonna go up at some tremendous rate? No, I don't think so. I mean, the city is still in Act 47. And, you know, I think that there's gonna be controls in place there to control our costs. Now, are there gonna be increases? Yes. Is healthcare maybe gonna go up? Yes. So, you know, things do increase. I mean, our experience with Wilkinsburg's been very positive, and they're very happy. They, you know, they saved money, and they're happy with the proposal we came back with for 5 years. And understand, they disbanded a career fire department, you know, with that unknown, what it was gonna be that 6th year, and they're pleasantly surprised.
Thank you.
This is in regard to the response times. You listed those response times under 4 minutes. Is that for Ingram, or would that apply to all the area?
Ingram, the borough of Ingram is within the response, I'm gonna call it a circumference, although that's not exactly how it's calculated. It's done by a computer model. So Ingram falls within 30's response district, and we project that those response times will hold true for the borough of Ingram, yes.
Okay, have you guys done any like run-throughs to look at that, or?
Not at this point.
Are you confident that those?
I'm confident that the model
numbers
will hold
are
true.
attainable? Okay. There was one other thing that I had heard about, that the Fire Bureau provides education programs and smoke detectors and things like that. And those kind of things, would those be available to our residents also? Would that be something that would be extended?
We can define that. Yeah, we do install smoke detectors. If, you know, we have a program and we do it in Wilkinsburg. If they request, you know, homeowner requested a smoke detector, we actually give them a free smoke detector, we install it. I think we could talk about those things and make sure that they're defined in whatever final agreement there is.
Okay, and then my final question is, one of the things that got brought up is some of the peripheral things like car accidents that our guys are currently responding to. We have a fireworks thing once a year that's scheduled on a specific date. Were those things that would be included in that proposal?
Well, when we took over Wilkinsburg, we also assumed responsibility for vehicle extrication in Wilkinsburg. So because of the way the overtime works in our system, we trained all 600 members of the Fire Bureau in technical rescue. So the answer to the first part of the question is yes, we can assume responsibility for vehicle extrication. The second half of the question, we participate in Wilkinsburg with their annual Christmas parade. We staff the fire safety house for their annual Christmas carnival. We can provide those kind of services.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on tonight. One question that I had was your QRS calls, 29,000 of your calls are QRS calls. When engine 30 leaves 30, does it get replaced by another engine on a QRS call as well?
We don't move an engine into engine 30, but what would happen is if you look at where 29 originally was on Nobletown Road and 31 in Chartiers, those are still within that 4-minute response window.
Okay.
And 30 truck is also still in that station, so.
Because sometimes the EMS is 14 to 18 minutes in the city to get to a call, so that's why you're QRSing them.
Yes.
Okay, the other question that I had was in relation to something that the chief of our fire department had brought up, and that was there are times when we have folks at home and they have flooding in their homes. How do you address those in the city?
The chief is right in that we're not gonna sit there and pump the basement dry. That is a correct statement. We will stay as long as we need to mitigate any emergency condition. So if the flooding in the basement is threatening to cause a gas leak, short out their electric panel, we will stay and attempt to mitigate that circumstance. But we are not gonna commit to stay there for 5 hours and pump a basement dry. That is a correct statement, yes.
And the other thing was the wires down. If it would be a high tension wire, that would be one thing. It would be a high hazard danger, and obviously you would stay for that.
That is correct.
If it would be a Verizon wire or another utility, then you would mitigate that circumstance. Maybe leave a battalion chief there until somebody got there.
We would attempt to make this situation safe for the general public. If we can't make it safe, we would sit until we can work out who is going to sit for the long term.
Okay,
Within the city, we typically turn that over to the city police department, so that's something we would have to discuss, obviously. He doesn't look like he's.
You're up
Yes, I just have a quick question. Mr. Nucci touched on it. You said you have a 4-minute response time 97% of the time. What about the other 3%?
It depends on a lot of circumstances, and the maximum response time in our statistics from 2014 was just over 10 minutes.
Let me explain the standard a little bit. My nephew died in 15 minutes, you didn't show up. So, let me explain the standard. The standard is, the national standard is to have one unit, the first unit on scene, in 4 minutes, 90% of the time. The standard is not 100%, the standard is 90%. If you start looking at average response times and stuff, it's not a very accurate way to measure response time. The more accurate way is to actually plot each incident and that way. The other part is to have that full first alarm there. The standard is 16 personnel within 8 minutes, 90% of the time. So if you take where I live in the Lincoln Place section of the city of Pittsburgh, way down on the bottom right of that map. The response time to my house is probably going to be more than 4 minutes, because no municipality meets it 100% of the time. It's almost impossible to do that. So it's, the outlying areas and things, it's going to be a little bit longer. Is it going to be way out of line? No, it's not. But that's why. The standard is 90% of the time, so the city of Pittsburgh is exceeding the national standard.
Thank you.
Hi guys. I have two questions. One concern that I came across was, from the citizens was, have you considered the streets of Ingram? I know they're similar to the streets of the city. Do your trucks fit on the streets? Are you familiar enough with the streets and the different situations?
It's actually kind of a two-part answer. The first part, yes, the trucks will fit. Right? We can get them on the south side slopes. We can get them into Ingram. The second part of the question is, are we familiar with the streets? Right now, the answer would be not as much as we should be. Well, how do we handle that? One of the things they're required to do every shift they work is what we call street familiarization. So you would see fire trucks out of the firehouse driving through the community just to get familiar with the layout of the streets, where the hydrants are, and those type of things.
Okay, my second question is, it's not a well-formed question, it might be more of a concern. And if we were to enter into a contract, could you explain in a little more detail how that cost would be determined? I mean, you mentioned collective bargaining. And would it be possible to create a contract that is based on predictable elements, predictable costs? And then my second part is how, my other concern is that we're entering into a possibly highly political situation with city council. How would they be involved as the contract expires and gets renewed?
Okay, so the first part of your question, there's different ways we looked at it different ways, and the International City Managers Association identifies ways to price fire protection, okay? Some of it's based on population, some of it's based on square mileage. In this case, what we found to be what I believe is the most equitable was based on your actual workload experience. So it's based on the history over the past 3 years of what your actual Ingram volunteer fire department was responding to. If we look at square miles, the city of Pittsburgh's 55 square miles, Ingram's 0.4, wasn't equitable. If we looked at, we're not adding personnel. So like in Wilkinsburg, we know that there's always 4 firefighters on duty, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in the borough of Wilkinsburg. So we base that on personnel costs. The way I think is most equitable to both sides, it makes the most sense, is based on your history and your workload. So we know that you have a very low incident of fire, which is good. And that, the type of community you generally have 2.5-story residential homes. Other areas, have, for instance, Wilkinsburg has a much higher fire potential because of row houses, high rises, and those types of things. That's what it was based on. So if we look at those calls, and they come out to about 65 a year versus 45,000 for the city of Pittsburgh, we kind of get an idea of what the workload's gonna be, and then we divided our budget and what we spend on fire protection, basically compared 45,000 to 65. I hope that helps you.
It does. What about the city council involvement as contract?
Yeah, this was already before, Pittsburgh City Council. They authorized, through a vote unanimously, to authorize the director, and the mayor to enter an agreement if Ingram so desires. So it's already been, voted on. It wasn't, it did get some attention, but it wasn't a big hot button issue, and actually it was unanimous. And they were unanimous for Wilkinsburg also.
So that ends council's involvement. Year 6, would they be involved again? Would they have to revote?
The way it would be, yeah, they would, because you'd be entering. So new contract, so, you would sit down and negotiate, look at where the contract's at, come up with a proposal, and I think both bodies of government would then have to approve it.
Thank you.
Sam just wanted me to clarify, whenever you do respond, for fire service, it's fire service only, it's not QRS, is that correct?
We did not propose QRS to the borough of Ingram. We didn't propose it, so, that's something you can look at, but.
So what we have,
We should.
that's something maybe going forward we can look at, but currently that's not part of the deal, so any ambulance response would be as currently.
That'll cost more.
Anyone else have anything up here? That costs more? You take a couple questions here? Mr. Jordan?
Response time.
Yeah.
Back in November, they were to respond to John Eagle Warehouse for a man down. 15
November
to
of-
18 minutes.
November of when? This
Last
year?
year.
Yeah.
November 15?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. It took them 15 to 18 minutes to show up. I had to bury him. He left my niece and an 8-year-old son. So that 4 minutes is bullshit. So,
Well,
I'm
I
sorry
understand.
about
I understand. One of the things that we just try to address, that wouldn't, this wouldn't affect ambulance response.
29,000 calls for EMS, and those fire trucks go with them, right?
Yes, sir.
First responders. Okay.
We do.
Why weren't they there in that 4 minutes?
I can't speak to the specifics of your
Well,
particular
I'll
incident.
tell my
Okay, all right.
Is that-
Okay, we're not, they're not prepared to answer those questions as soon as bottom of our Stop.
807, 809, and 811 Crucible Street. What was the response time for that?
I don't
They
have
don't know
that.
either.
I think it's a little unfair to put them on the spot for a specific incident.
Look, I don't have that data in front of me, but I can tell you this. I'm very familiar, that fire was on a Saturday morning,
Yeah.
about 10 a.m. And the firefighters ran from the firehouse down there and made a rescue and saved the person's life, so.
No,
That, to me, it was adequate. Sir, I'm sorry about your loss. I'm talking to him.
That happens, but
I'm sorry, okay, about your
You go
loss.
with this 90% and then 10%, I'm sorry, but I mean, it sounds good, 10%, but 10% dies sometimes.
I understand that. I'm sorry for your loss.
Okay. Back there.
I just Googled it right now, and it takes 7 minutes to get from Lorenz to here. So, plus 60 seconds to get ready, that's 8 minutes.
With lights and sirens?
I just Googled it now, anyone can do it.
With lights and sirens?
No, I mean, but I'm just saying, that's what we do that right
Lights
now.
and sirens. Excuse me, we're gonna take these in order, please. Excuse me, stop. Okay, you'll get a chance, sir.
The question was asked to you people whether or not you would provide certain services like the fire, the down wires and pumping things. And your response was that it could be done. Now, if it can be done, is this gonna be at an extra cost to us? Or is this gonna be done under your contract?
The proposal we have included everything but medical calls. It did not include medical calls, okay? So it included all the calls that your fire department currently responds to. As the chief said, okay, they're gonna stay as long as, if there's a hazard there, they're gonna stay till it's mitigated. Okay, so if that means, if it's a wire that's not a, not an energized wire, they might secure that wire, okay? It depends on what the call is. But the proposal was based on all the calls your current fire department's responding to, but not medical calls. Now, would we come to assist, EMS if they needed a lift assist, if they needed help? Of course we're gonna come. We're not gonna, we would do that today if someone called and said, hey, we need help. But nonetheless,
This is
we're
all
not
under
gonna
your
respond to
contract.
QRS calls.
This is all gonna be under your contract at no extra expense to us.
I can't predict, yeah. It's based on those types of criteria. It'll clearly be defined in a final contract between the city and the borough. And that's what we're gonna respond to. So understand, you might have, you can't anticipate what might happen, right? Anything could happen. But based on history, we kind of have a good idea of what the workload is here.
Okay. That answer your question? Yeah?
That's a good Pittsburgh answer.
Let's try to keep this civil, please.
Okay, so I have a question. So we're kind of speaking about if and whens. So, and there's no contract, but, that they're saying. So if, per se, it could be looked at that daylight response time seems to be the mayor's issue, could we only contract for daylight response time for that service for daylight response time and still keep our current volunteers, or do something like the mutual aid for daylight response time?
Mutual aid with the city for daylight response?
Yeah, you can turn it on. Like instead of contracting for getting rid of them altogether, since the mayor's so worried about daylight response time.
Well, like I said, we have not discussed
Well,
contract
I'm
with
just
them, so
I'm
we
just
have not
asking.
gone into any of those.
I know, I'm just asking. Could it be
Possible.
looked at, and
Possible.
would the city look at
I would have to speak to them.
a contract of mutual
Now,
aid or
look, I'm gonna
paid
speak for
mutual
the
aid?
city. Okay, we're either gonna be your fire department or we're not. Listen,
So
we're,
there would be no even looking at paid mutual aid for daylight response times?
no, ma'am, listen, there's a lot of issues that come with that. We are a system that is designed to operate the way we showed you here.
I understand.
Okay, that's the way we operate. We operate that way to provide for our safety of our community and the safety of our firefighters. Okay, so what we don't want to have happen is you request one company and a fire continues to grow. And then we have to adjust and move from that. If we're involved, we want to be responsible for the incident, and we want to go there and respond as we do everywhere else, because it's a training issue, and we want to handle it the same way.
Okay, we'll take a couple more, we're gonna wrap this up, ma'am.
What makes it a advantageous pursuit for the city to absorb a small borough like Ingram?
Okay, let them answer, please.
Honestly, I've always viewed it as the Pittsburgh Bureau of Fire is the region's leader in fire protection. Okay, we are a Class 1 organization, we're the biggest. We have full-time paid staff. Is the city gonna be able to add anything because of this agreement? No. Now, the Wilkinsburg agreement was a little bit different. We added 4 firefighters, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that then now respond into the city and help us in areas like Homewood, East Liberty, Squirrel Hill, Point Breeze. We're doing this, we're willing to do this because we believe we're the region's leader. And honestly, I believe we have an obligation to look at these things. I think we have an obligation to our taxpayers to be willing to look at consolidation efforts or sharing of services. I think that's good government. So, are we gonna, are we gaining anything great out of this? No, we're just trying to cover our expenses and be a good neighbor.
Thank you, ma'am. The red?
Chief, can I ask you?
Excuse me, I'll get to you next, Dave.
No, you said that your fire and your EMS is combined together? Is that what you said?
It would not be for this bunch.
No, I'm
for
not
this
saying
bunch.
that.
No,
I'm
ma'am.
asking them to
The ambulances are in a separate bureau, Emergency Medical Services Bureau. We respond in the fire trucks to medical calls when there is a delay in an ambulance arriving on scene.
Okay, so you're not two separate units.
Yes, so you'll get a fire truck and an ambulance if we would do QRS calls here, yes.
That's not part of it.
Yeah, but that is currently not part of what we're discussing.
We're not. We're not looking to contract you.
And we could look at that.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
same
We
expense
could.
all the way
We
across.
could, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Dave? Dave?
Okay, the question I have is very short. This should go to the chief. Chief, do you agree with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette when it says that overtime in the Pittsburgh Fire Bureau is soaring out of control? I'm not even smart, but that leads me to believe that if you rely on overtime so much, you don't have enough people.
That is correct.
So you could bring 67 fire trucks down to the fight a fire with firefighters for 12 of them.
Now, we are required by the collective bargaining unit with the firefighters union to have 163 firefighters on duty every day, 24 hours a day. That is 4 firefighters per fire truck. That's required. We currently have 70 vacancies in the Bureau, meaning there are 70 holes that we need to hire and fill. That generates the overtime because I'm required to fill all 70 of those holes every day. Okay? That's what generates the overtime. So the answer to your question is yes, the overtime needs to be reined in. We are doing that. We've hired, we currently have 70 people going through the recruit training program right now at our academy. When those 2 classes graduate, on paper, we will be fully staffed, but that doesn't take into account vacations, sick days, guys that are off injured. We only average right now about 2 retirements a month, so that's not going to give us a significant impact. But the vacancies on our roster is what generates the overtime.
But your overtime cost doesn't affect our contract.
That is correct. That overtime exists whether we provide service to Ingram or not.
Okay, sir?
Yeah, I was wondering, Crafton and Ingram, when they gave their proposals, both went over what it would cost. You guys haven't mentioned proposed cost of what it would cost the citizens for you guys to come in per year.
We haven't heard any figures.
We haven't heard any figures, money-wise, no financials.
What's your take?
So what we proposed, the total cost for 2016 would be, it was $104,777. And because we were interested in 2 of the vehicles owned by the borough, we were going to give the borough a credit of $20,000 for an actual cost to the borough of $84,777.
1 year, 1 year.
That's for 2016. If you want over 5 years, the 5-year totals, I think I can give them to you here.
It's about 4% a year increase.
Yeah, so like the year 2020, the cost, we estimated our cost to be $121,690. Again, you had a $20,000 credit back to the borough for a grand total of $101,690.
Credit once. You only give the credit once.
No,
Now you get it.
no, it's 20,000 per year for the 5 years. It'll be 20,000 off for each year for 5 years. Don?
First of all, I'll go back to what I said in our statement. The fire department has a financial stake in the equipment that is in that proposal. So I want to reiterate that. Second of all, this is the council. I'm not addressing this to the city. I'm addressing this to our council. I was asked in my presentation how we plan to come up with $1.5 million over 15 years. Okay? And it's not an easy answer. But you're sitting here entertaining a proposal that is over $1.5 million for 15 years. Where are you going to come up with that?
I think you're sort of mixing the figures because the 1.5 million was in addition to fire service. That doesn't preclude whatever number you want to use for the fire service. That was additional things. So you're actually mixing 2 different things.
Sam.
I'm sorry?
Tell me how you come up with $1.5 million. If you are not paying $100,000 a year right now for this fire department.
Well, you
There's only
can
one way
dispute the
come up with
numbers all
that
you want.
money.
I'll be happy
You need
to
to
give you
let
this number.
citizens
I
know
mean,
that.
you're correct, excuse me, let me finish. you're correct about that number being a pass-through. The question was asked is, what was the money going to the fire department from the expenditure budget, and that's what it is. So actual number from Ingram is something, I believe, in the high 70s. But that's without an additional truck payment, which, depending on whose estimate you look at, maybe $30,000 a year. So I think you're looking at, and I haven't sat down and really crunched the numbers, but you're looking at probably about, because we don't have a contract, we've not even met with anyone yet. So, but the way I'm looking at it right now, it's about a push number-wise. Without the $1.5 million wish list for the next 15 years. Believe what you want.
You were supposed to have these numbers.
I have them right here. I have them right here. I have them right here. I've told you that 3 times. I don't have I don't have a contract from the city. I have your numbers right here. I read them off to you. I told Donnie I'd give him a copy of them. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about the fire service, sir?
The city gentleman, you gave the contract for $100,000, $20,000 discount for the first 5 years. What happens on year 6, year 7, year 8? When we don't have anyone else to compare to, you're the only gig in town. You can charge us whatever you want. And we don't have a choice at that time.
Right. Well, that was
what guarantee do we have that on year 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, we're going to be treated fairly?
Well, that's one of the things that we had brought up here, that was one of our biggest concerns across council. That once that contract is up, then what happens? Speaking for council, I would say the fact that Wilkinsburg did not go up, I think is a good sign. That doesn't guarantee anything, of course, but I think that's a good sign. There's no telling what that, you're right. There's no telling what that's going to be in year 6. It's controlled by Act 47.
Look, the only thing I can tell you is, I don't know what those costs are gonna be 6 years from now. I mean, just like I didn't know when we did Wilkinsburg. Wilkinsburg did come out favorably. The protections you have is you got 2 governing bodies. You got one here, you got one in the city of Pittsburgh. You got a process that contract needs to be approved. You know, do I see anybody from the city thinking that they're gonna make an absorbent amount of money on Ingram in the future? I don't see that. I mean, we're almost a $70 million budget fire department. You know, $100,000 isn't.
But it is a legitimate question. It's a question we've all had to. But the Wilkinsburg thing put me at ease. Okay, we'll take one more, and then we're gonna wrap this up. Go ahead.
The city of Pittsburgh.
Go ahead.
Please don't take it that you're being attacked for the city of Pittsburgh. It is the residents concerned about our taxes. So I just want to make sure you understand that, gentlemen.
That's fine. Thank you.
I got a question. You said that you guys didn't talk at all on the call tonight, right? You guys didn't talk at all?
We have not met with them, no.
But you knew that they were gonna give you $20,000 a year.
We had said that they had sent a draft of.
But how do they know what our call volume is and that we're low cost if we met with nobody?
I didn't say that.
You just said you didn't meet nobody. You are so full of shit.
There is a difference between all of council meeting and 1 or 2 members of council meeting. This is the first time that I have seen any of these individuals. I can probably say the same for Don and Jerry. The first time we've seen them. I can't speak for everybody, but I can think of 2 others that I think it's the first time they've seen them as well. So there's a difference. And I understand this is a heated debate. Believe me, it's everywhere. However, we are all adults, and we need to keep in mind the safety of everybody.
Can we start being honest then?
I'm not sure what you're thinking is honest. I think it was pretty clear in the December meeting. The mayor reached out to the city to see if they were interested. You know what, we're just going to wrap this up now. I'm not going to turn this into a mob. Okay, so if you go and listen to my answer, I'll be happy to answer it. The former chairman of the committee did meet with the city and discussed these incidents. Not one member of council, as far as I know, has met with the city and had any discussion with any of these gentlemen here that were kind enough to come to them. So believe it if you want to believe it. I really don't care anymore, because it's the truth. I just told you that, didn't I? Didn't I just tell you that?
We want to vote on this.
No, I'm done. Okay, we're done.
The residents
We're
want
done.
their fire department.
We're done. Okay.
You're done.
Yeah, we're done.
Criticism
I was
is
hoping we could have a
done.
discussion without
Done.
this turning into a screaming match, but obviously that's not gonna happen.
Go get stuff, don't get going.
Right, that's why the
Get going, come on.
Go home.